Okie dokie. All right, all right, all right. We are live. I am not really Matthew McConaughey, but all right, all right, all right. From what was that movie? This '70s movie. Uh, I just botched it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. We're just waiting for a couple platforms to connect. We're good on YouTube, looks like, so I'm just going for it. Welcome in, everybody, to the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, not really any news today. I was kind of getting jealous because our friend Alan, who covers the Dolphins on SI, I wrote up that Zach Wilson story about him talking, hey, yeah, I can still be a starter in this league and all that. And he's like, yo, dude, that was actually a Zoom presser. They made the free agent acquisitions available to the press today, so and I'm like, man, wouldn't that be nice to hear from the new free agents the Broncos signed, Zach? What a world. You're like first world over there in Miami, Alan, with your actual access to the new players of the team you cover. But anyway, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. I echo what you said, Chad. It's like week 3 into free agency or so, and we still haven't heard anything from Dre Greenlaw, Hafanga, Evan Ingram. But we are happy the Broncos have them signed, and we're on to the draft and covering all the pre-draft meetings now. So just getting into the nitty-gritty of the offseason.
At least just give us a Zoom, Coach Payton. I know it's like Fort Knox or the Pentagon to you. Like, I don't know. I don't quite understand why, because your team does. The Broncos do a great job, Zach, of educating and training their players to be careful not to say things that would harm the team in any way, shape, or form in terms of strategy and give opponents maybe a competitive edge. They're pretty buttoned down when they do talk to the press. So what are you worried about? Let us talk to them, dude. Like, especially this time of year, the rise of the kind of explosion of free agency now, Zach, has diminished. So here we are. It's like, hey, right about now would be the best time for the Broncos. While it's still fresh in everyone's mind, by the way, too. News cycle, PR. You guys know this, Broncos. Give us access to the players, dude.
I would think it would happen this week, but we haven't heard anything, hide nor hair, of impending press conferences. So we'll just continue waiting this week, I guess.
We will keep you guys in the loop if we hear anything different on that front. They do, the Broncos do a good job of informing us when they plan to hold a Zoom or bring guys in for a presser. So hopefully that is in the near future. But some hellos here. We got Big Earn checking in on YouTube. Usually Big Earn is holding it down on Facebook. Great to see you, buddy. Go Broncos country only. Bo Nix for 6. Really cool. We've got Pearl in the house. David Youngkin saying he's starting rehabilitation tomorrow to get his legs straightened so he can walk again. And the doctors don't have any idea what caused his leg to give out. Well, our thoughts and our prayers are with you, big dog. Keep a stiff upper lip. You are a strong, strong man. Casey Nickel checking in. Dude, what's up? What is going on? Great to see you tonight. Casey's been with us as a member of the super community here for a long time and always has great questions. We've had him on the show. Which, by the way, Casey, we should get you back on the show, big dog, sometime here in the near future. Geez, you know what? What's today, Monday? That almost gave me like a panic attack. So I go, wait a minute, am I forgetting to have somebody on? But that's Thursday night, so we're good. But reach out. Let's talk about a time to get you on the show a Thursday over the next few weeks. Anyway, Casey says, the Broncos are making so many consistently good decisions. Give it another year, and there could be a legit conversation of being a contender. Yeah, I think one more year to kind of continue like scratching through the surface and kind of busting through. Last year was a true scratching of the surface, Zach, where no one really saw it coming. But Bo Nix taking that next step will raise all the ships around him.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Casey. There's different layers, I think, of being a contender. Is it being a playoff contender, being a Super Bowl contender? The Broncos made the playoffs in Bo Nix's first season. They won 10 games. You could argue they're a contender right now for consistent playoff berths, though I agree maybe a year or so marinating in Sean Payton's system, a few players away from really being regarded as like a Buffalo or Kansas City where you're a perennial championship contender. But, Casey, the Broncos are on that track, which is amazing, as you know.
It could happen sooner, but Casey, I agree with you that one more year and they become a bona fide Super Bowl contender. And that could happen again as soon as this year if everything falls into place. They stay healthy. And basically, what we've seen, Zach, so far from a Sean Payton ran Denver Broncos team is I think we've seen enough now. There's enough sample size where we can come to expect that they're going to do well relative to the injury bug. And I'm knocking on wood as I say that. But um, if those stars continue to align for him, and here's the caveat, Bo Nix takes that next step forward in his development, then how could they be denied? I mean, it was one of the best defenses in the NFL last year. Then they just brought in a former All-Pro that's still young in Talanoa Hufanga, and Dre Greenlaw, who is one of the better inside linebackers, injuries notwithstanding, in the NFL, Zach.
I think there's an easy argument to make that the Broncos right now are better on paper than they were when they ended the season at Buffalo, Chad. And in that case, again, coming off a 10-7 season, how do you not talk about them being a contender? You're right. Health is the biggest caveat there, but they've been extremely fortunate in that department. As long as Bo doesn't have that sophomore slump like so many second-year quarterbacks do, and I don't think he will, the Broncos, Casey, are going to continue to ascend in the NFL.
So the draft is officially 1 month away. It's 1 month from today. April 24th, it kicks off. So, man, we're inching closer. Can't wait. But again, brother, so good to see you, Casey. We want to chop it up again. Reach out, shoot us an email, and let's set something up, brother. Tom Laucuff jumping in. Great to see you tonight, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. Says the Broncos should sign a veteran running back, even if they don't play much. Teach the young guys. Nick Chubb would be ideal on a $3 million per year deal. Hashtag you guys the best. Thank you, brother. That's so kind of you. And we do appreciate the super chat support, especially this time of year, buddy. Helps us out a lot. But hey, you're preaching to the choir, brother. You are singing to the converted. But my buddy over here, this other guy, one of the other football priests, he's not as convinced in the doctrine. He needs a little bit of push. You got to sing to him, Tom, about the Broncos signing another running back.
Listen, Chad, you've sung to me plenty and kind of convinced me a little bit. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, I would not mind. There's some motion out there for the Broncos to make that move. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, besides mentorship, what Nick Chubb could bring to the Broncos running back room. We all want youth. We want speed. We want athleticism. We want playmaking ability. And I don't think Nick Chubb has that anymore. So if they want a veteran running back, I'm on your side now, Chad. Bring in J.K. Dobbins.
While he's still available, right? Like he's still out there. Again, if you look at his production, almost 1,000 rushing yards in I think it was 11 games off the top of my head. I wrote about it again today, in fact, just for fun. I'm like, hey, he's still lingering, trying to create a groundswell. But there's another reason, Zach, why the Broncos might be dragging their feet on signing another free agent. And that kind of brings us to the main topic of tonight's show, which is centered around the compensatory situation. So Nick had the article for us at MHH. Go give it a read when you get a second, but let me condense it down. Basically, for the first time in many years, I'm going to quote Nick, the Broncos are projected to be in line for a 2026 compensatory draft pick, according to Over the Cap. The potential compensatory picks that might have been returned to Denver for, say, linebacker Cody Barton, quarterback Zach Wilson, those were canceled out by the Hufanga and Greenlaw signings, but the Broncos currently are in place to receive, Zach, a 7th-round comp pick for losing punter Riley Dixon to Tampa Bay. However, and this is the fine print at the very bottom of the formula, it's kind of mercurial, but as of April 28th, which is the Monday following the draft, the Broncos and the rest of the league will then be able to sign free agents that won't count towards the comp pick formula. So in other words, if they go out, depending on the deal, the size of the deal, but if they go out and sign, say, a J.K. Dobbins right now, well, as much as I would say, hey, don't let a possible 7th-round compensatory pick next year dissuade you or hold you back from doing what's right for the team right now, if they were to do that, it's possible it could then either drop them down the ladder of qualifiers or even bounce them altogether out of getting a 7th-round compensatory pick again for Riley Dixon. So I hope it doesn't come to that, Zach, where they're like so worried about a year from now 7th round pick that they allow like a possibly really good veteran running back, not the long term solution, not the guy you're searching for in the draft this year, but a nice band aid and failsafe to get away because of a potential 7th round comp pick next year. Miss me on that logic.
Yeah, it could be a case where, and we don't know that Dobbins wants too much money. The Broncos aren't offering him enough. He has other offers on the table. He wants to wait it out. There could be a number of factors at play. But if we're weighing a potential 7th round pick versus a guy who contributed 900 yards and 9 touchdowns, I'd rather have the 900 yards and 9 touchdowns on the offense, helping everyone out, helping out Bo Nix, and helping the Broncos win football games. So I'm with you, Chad. I hope that wouldn't be a qualifying factor.
But for what it's worth, we have to follow what they do more so than what they say, and what they've done up to this point relative to a veteran running back is nothing, to the point where they even let their starter and the guy they drafted in the 2nd round 4 years ago walk. So, Zach, it seems like they're telegraphing to fans, hey, look, we hear you, we get it, but trust us, we're going to find the help that is needed at running back in this year's draft. Eric Flynn, what's up, buddy? Great to see you on Facebook. The Ronk checking in to say good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. And then Cottonmouth, we're going to grab you, and then we got a little piece of a matter of business that we got to get to. But first, Cottonmouth 78. Great to see you in the chat the last week or so. A couple of super chats. Always appreciate it, big dog. Thank you. Says, hi, fellas. I heard rumors that Cortland Sutton could be used to move up in the draft. I know he is at the terrible 30, but I can't see the Broncos moving on from him. What do you boys think? Broncos for life. Zach, give Cottonmouth your answer.
First of all, Cottonmouth, thank you for your generosity. Second of all, I haven't heard those rumors, so I'd be interested to know the source of those. And third of all, I think he's more likely to get extended based on, if we're taking George Payton at face value, than he is to get traded. The whole point of the offseason, at least from my point of view, is to add to Bo Nix's supporting cast, not take away from it. So if you'd be trading Cortland Sutton in a deal for a running back or receiver, it's basically a net neutral move. So I don't know. My prediction is he stays at some capacity, Chad, either extended or, playing on his current deal.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either, Cottonmouth, for what it's worth. And again, I think Cortland fits in quite comfortably with what the Broncos are doing here. In other words, even though, like, it was one thing, Zach, to point to him as trade fodder when they sucked. All right, when the Broncos were in the basement, it made sense why you would look to the true assets on the team, the true producers, which Sutton had been one of those guys during the down years, and go, hey, if you're going to climb out of this hole, you might have to sell off some of your best guys to rebuild this thing. That makes sense. We see it in the NFL all the time. It's part of the philosophy. But now that you're running and gunning, and it just so happens that your number one receiver seems to have, Zach, a genuinely strong and a close bond with your now second-year quarterback, I don't really want to upset that apple cart. And again, I draw your attention back. You could probably still find it on MHH. But Vic Lombardi, jumping in that suite at the Nuggets game like a week or so back, maybe a week and a half, and talking to Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton right after free agency, basically. Right after, it was at the end of that first wave of free agency. So week and a half, yeah. Anyway, and just seeing how tight those guys are and like hanging and the bro factor, nah. I'm not risking that and doing anything to, even if they didn't have a bond, Zach, the way that they produce, they obviously have a chemistry on the field. Nevertheless, I digress. I don't think Cortland Sutton's going to be used as a chip for anything. He's, like Zach mentioned, he's in line for an extension. It won't be ridiculous because this is, Zach, his age 30 season. He's 29, turning 30 later this fall. But Cortland's part of the short long term. Let's put it that way.
You mentioned if the Broncos sucked, it could be a viable option. Well, if the Broncos had another excellent receiver complementing him, a la Cincinnati with Higgins and Chase, that could also be an option. But if you trade Court, who are you really left with to count on? Mims, Vele, Franklin, Trent Sherfield? No. We talked about the lack of experience at running back. Well, they don't have much experience at wide receiver either. So keep Court and add to that position. Don't subtract from it.
Indeed. Speaking of basketball, you guys, whether it's the Nuggets, whether it's March Madness, nothing beats March basketball. Bring the fun of a bracket to every game day by making entries on Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps you can play right now in your state. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, listen, you can with Underdog.
And here's how to play. You choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, like points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge.
That's right. Have so much help. Allow yourself to enjoy March Madness and what remains of the NBA season, that much more with Underdog. Download the Underdog app today and sign up using our code MHuddle to unlock that special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you use our promo code MHuddle and claim that special offer today. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado. For some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
All right, back to the chat we go, and we're going to see what Ralph's got cooking. What's on Ralph Bracegirdle's mind on Facebook? What's up, brother? Great to see you. Says, good afternoon, my priests. Hashtag MHH for life. You missed my post last week. What? But I just want to help you guys where I can. I'm sorry about that, buddy. Every once in a while, one slips through, and we do appreciate you bringing it to our attention so we can figure out how to make it up to you, my friend. But sorry about that. He wants to know, what are your thoughts about taking Alabama linebacker Jihad Campbell, Zach, at pick 20, which, real quick, a couple pieces of the puzzle before I serve it over. You did just invest some serious coin in Dre Greenlaw. You got Singleton coming back. You have Drew Sanders. That being what it is, Eric Trickle took Jihad Campbell in his Monday 7-round mock draft for what it's worth in the first round. So what's your answer here for Ralph?
I feel like a lot of things would have to go wrong for the Broncos to take an off ball at pick 20 overall. And Chad mentioned they signed Greenlaw. They have Singleton coming back. They're high on Drew Sanders, who they consider a starter or a future starter in the NFL. I just don't know if I go this direction. You invested a lot of money in the defense and free agency. The draft is about improving the offense. So again, it would have to be a case, Chad, where every running back I like is off the board, every tight end, every receiver, and I'm at plan D or E now, going with Jihad Campbell, if he's even there at 20.
Well, listen, there are some teams, Zach, that will take a linebacker in the first round, inside linebacker. I almost said off ball, but I didn't want to trigger Mr. Producer. I was so close. Just kidding. I wasn't. I wasn't really that close. But anyway, there's some teams. I mean, like take Pittsburgh, for example. They're not opposed if it's the right fit, drafting a linebacker in the first round. The Broncos, on the other hand, haven't done that in over 2 decades. DJ Williams is, in fact, the last inside linebacker the team invested a first-round pick in 2004. So that's not to say that Campbell isn't worthy. If the Broncos took him at 20, I wouldn't hate it. He's a great player. There may, however, be better uses for that resource than taking an inside linebacker, considering you just brought in Dre Greenlaw. But we shall see.
I mean, in Arizona, when Vance was the DC, they had 2 highly drafted inside guys, and Collins and Isaiah Simmons. They didn't really work out. Yeah, Scott's giving the thumbs down. I was high on them coming out of college, and they were disappointments, at least in VJ's system. So, again, this would have to be a case where a lot goes wrong, and the Broncos are kind of just settling on defense at that spot.
Taylor jumping in with a super chat. Great to see you, bro. Saying, keep up the great work, fellas. Cortland's all we have. Well, I mean, I wouldn't use absolute like all we have, but yeah, he's offensively, when it comes to the receiving core anyway, for now, Zach, he's the straw that stirs the drink, dictates kind of where coverage is going to go. But Marvin Mims has started to offset that a little bit, which is nice, forcing teams to be a little bit more honest in how they play coverage on the Broncos. And I think Evan Ingram, Zach, is going to go the full distance of really making it more fair in terms of keeping defenses on their toes and a little bit less likely to sell out to try and take away one player like Cortland, for example.
Yeah, he's not all the Broncos have, but you can make a case for sure he's their most decorated offensive player. And you need that experience. Like, that's the whole reason why Chad and so many others in Broncos country want Denver to add a running back, just for the experience sake. We talked about Nick Chubb earlier. Well, if you take away Cortland, you're losing all of that. And even if you replace him with a highly touted rookie, that rookie has no NFL skin. So I don't know about all we have, but he's a big part of what the Broncos want to do, Taylor.
George Fox jumping in. Great to see you, big dog. He says, do you see us trading down to get more picks? George Payton is known for doing that. Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Yeah, I could see if I don't see the Broncos trading up. I could see the Broncos trading down, but Zach, it really just depends on how the board falls.
George is known for trading down, where Sean Payton is known for either trading up or staying put. So who wins that tug of war? Usually Sean Payton. If I had to put money down George right now, I would say the Broncos make their pick at 20 overall.
Yeah, dude. We know that George Payton, I mean, who doesn't? Any GM, they like to have as many darts to throw at the board as possible, but some are a lot more stingy about letting them go than others, and some are a lot more aggressive in trying to stockpile more. I would say George Payton's somewhere between stingy and looking to stockpile more. But those first round picks, man, you got to be really choosy in terms of lay of the land. If you're going to trade out, make sure you're not cutting off your nose to spite your face and missing out on a player that could really, really help you. David Youngkin, Sutton was a piece for a trade up to the Cowboys, but that is Bo's security blanket. Exactly, buddy. We have weapons on offense. Don't get it twisted. We do. And I think what it took for the NFL to see that, Zach, was a legitimate quarterback. Even the first half of the season when Bo was still kind of finding his footing, you could see, different games where the guys around him were helping the rookie rise. But by the time you get to the second half of the season, these guys are starting to pop because Bo Nix is the tide that's raising that ship. So, the Broncos have talent on offense. Is it the most explosive, twitched up, keeping defensive coordinators up at night collection of skill players? No, not right this second, but it could be. It just needs that quarterback to continue to develop, and kaboom.
We saw flashes of brilliance from Cortland Sutton. We saw him from Mims. We saw him from Vele. We even saw him from Troy Franklin in the playoff game against Buffalo. But when you put it all together and those flashes become a consistent bright spot, that's when the beauty starts, and that's when the Broncos offense really takes off. Now add a dynamic running back. That's what's so enthralling to me, Chad, is the Broncos accomplished so much last season without any semblance at all of a running game. You add a couple more pieces to that equation, look out.
Yeah, definitely. Phil McLaughlin checking in, a member of the MHH family down in Tucson. Great to see you tonight, brother. Thank you. Says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. How would you grade free agency for the Raiders, Chargers, and KC? I think we did the best. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Zach, I don't know how much you paid attention to their additions, but what's your answer for Phil?
I would need to pull up like the list side by side and compare them. I don't know that anyone really stood out. Top of my head, Phil. The Broncos, obviously, they fill the most holes. They didn't have the best free agency just in the West. They had the best free agent period, for my money, in the entire NFL.
So here's Kansas City's key additions. Let me double check something real quick. Yeah, okay. All right. So key additions and re-signings. They brought back, of course, a lot of their own guys, including Nick Bolton, but they lost safety Justin Reed, Joe Tooney, DeAndre Hopkins, Tershawn Wharton. And anyway, I don't know. They're like on this particular article, this is CBS Sports giving them an A-.
Shocker.
Really? What did they do to deserve an A- besides make sure you got Nick Bolton back? Honestly,
They exist. They exist.
Yeah, they exist. Okay, so then Chargers, who are given a C, by the way, Key additions and re-signings: Dante Jackson, Najee Harris, Khalil Mack, Elijah Molden, Mekhi Becton, receiver Mike Williams. All right. Key departures, of course, they cut Joey Bosa, lost Puna Ford, Christian Fulton. They get a C. To me, that was what, because you lost Joe. They let Joey Bosa go, so they don't get a name like you gave Kansas City. Like, to me, these are actually quite similar in what they brought in and what they lost. But and then lastly, going to the Raiders, they were given a B minus by this CBS Sports thing. Geno Smith brought in Jeremy Chin. They did bring in a lot of new names to start building the Pete Carroll vision. Raheem Mostert. Key departures though: Trevon Moehrig, Nate Hobbs, Robert Spillane. They lost some guys. Got a B minus. So I didn't have, like Zach, I didn't have enough collected thoughts on it to give you actual grades, but there's at least for you, Phil, some schools of thought from around the internet.
I think the best thing the Raiders did was bring in Pete Carroll. I mean, let alone the signings. Just his presence alone is going to change the culture. I mean, hopefully not, of that organization. I do like the Mekhi Becton signing for the Chargers, but is he going to replicate the success he had in Philly? I don't know. The Broncos, though, I mean, filling quantity with quality, they had the best free agent period in the entire league.
Yeah. Okay, let me, Zach, I want to pick your brain on this. So you had, in another piece of news today, the Denver Broncos, and thank you again, Phil. We love you, big dog. The Denver Broncos had was it a top 30 visit with the Wisconsin kid?
Yeah.
All right, so talk about that. Broncos brought in a Wisconsin receiver, Bryson Green, for a top 30. What do we know about this kid?
It's a little surprising they would use a 30 visit, even though you, Scott, and I talked about that off camera chat, how kind of ridiculous the verbiage is. But yeah, Bryson Green, he's 6'2", 225, started his career at Oklahoma State, finished it at Wisconsin. Pretty decent measurables. He didn't run at the scouting combine, but he had his pro day, 10-foot, 11-inch broad jump, 39-inch vertical, 21 reps on 225. He's considered a later round prospect, maybe a special teams guy, backup receiver. Interesting player to look at, but not until day 3.
Yeah. So, by the way, these top 30, the way they're phrased makes you think that these are all like first round caliber guys they're visiting with, when in reality, it's just you get 30 guys you can bring in for a visit under the, auspices, the strictures of what the NFL calls top 30. But it doesn't have to be the top 30 ranked guys, your top 30 ranked guys as a team. It's just prospect A. It doesn't matter if they're early round projected, late round, undrafted. If you want to get a closer look, see, sniff, you bring them in. They fall under the top 30 strictures. The only exception to that, Zach, is like in the case of Gunnar Helm, the Texas tight end. If they're local, then you can get extra visits under the local tag of, pre-draft visits. So, but this dude, you definitely, I can see why Sean Payton would be attracted to him as a prospect because of his size, but very little production in college, 42 career games, and he didn't even quite get to 1,500 receiving yards, and he had 11 touchdowns. So more of a guy that's very much still developing and probably needing the right system and situation to fully, turn that corner. But piece of news all the same, Zach.
Yeah, Scott mentioned in the side chat about security blankets and Lil Jordan Humphrey. Well, Humphrey signed with the Giants recently in free agency, and I think if they drafted Green, that's the replacement right there. Is a number 4, number 5 receiver, can play on specials, and you know what you're getting with him day in and day out.
Indeed. All right. Indeed. All right. I'm going to go back to the chat for a second. Tonight, we'll probably keep it pretty tight, guys. So get your questions and any supers you might have or anything, get them in now. But Glenn, good to see you, buddy. Says less than 30 days until the draft. Exciting times indeed. The Peyton and Peyton show need to ace the Peyton and Peyton show to ace this draft like free agency. # state of being. That's right, buddy. Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is, in fact, a state of being. What's up, Patrick? Wiltsy, aloha, back at you. I'm going to be coming to your neck of the woods in the not too distant future, by the way, brother. So I'll get to experience what you experience every single day. Leroy, what's up, bro? On Facebook, Mile High Salute, Priest. I know us fans are banging the table for us to sign Dobbins. If the Broncos didn't sign him by now, does it mean they're not interested? Or are they waiting for the draft? Or are they cap heavy and just don't want to waste money on him? For me, I want that veteran running back. It'll benefit Bo Nix, Broncos for life. We are sharing a brain on that, Leroy. I think it's a mix between they genuinely think that they can check those boxes with the draft. And after reading the article Nick put out today about the compensatory pick, I can't help but wonder how much of their lack of urgency at bringing in a veteran is tied to protecting a potential 2026 seventh round compensatory pick, which to me kind of sounds ridiculous. Now, if we were talking about protecting Zach like a third round compensatory pick, okay, yeah, maybe you'd be, I could see how it would influence your decision making in the present, but a seventh round that you probably are in line to qualify for, it's not an absolute lock. I don't quite get that. So, long story short, I think though, Zach, it really boils down to this: it's such a deep class in the draft that they are telegraphing to fans and media, hey, we are so confident that we're going to get our guys in this draft. Relax. It's going to be all right.
I don't think it's a cap issue, Leroy. The Broncos restructured Jonathan Cooper's deal last week. They cleared $3.2 million. And last I checked, they had around $17 million. The incoming draft class will only take up about 8 or 9 of that. So they have the money to sign Dobbins if they want to. The question is, do they want to? The question is, does Dobbins want to sign with Denver? I mentioned this earlier tonight. Does he want too much money? Are the Broncos maybe dissuaded by his medicals? Or do, like Chad said, they want to just bypass the open market and wait and take maybe multiple running backs in the draft next month?
Keith Brugman, what's going on, brother? Says Chad and Zach, is there a player you would advocate trading up for in the draft? Talking probably first round, right? Within reason, even what was it, Zach? Moving up in that, I think it was Chad Reuter mock to get from 20 to 12.
It was 20 and 51 and a fifth, I think.
Exactly. So if you're willing to say Warren or a Genty or a Loveland or someone else is worth not having your second round pick and next year's fifth round pick, I'm not sure there's, because of the depth of the class, Zach. Look, any of the guys I'd be interested in moving up for are at those positions that are deep in this class. So
exactly,
I don't see anyone I would advocate trading up for. Now, if it's Genty sliding and you're worried he's going to be gone, he's 2-3 picks in front of you, you package a trade, maybe you get out of that with like giving up your fourth round pick this year or something. I'm not sure exactly what the arithmetic would be. I could live with that, but not like really moving up. I couldn't advocate with clear conscience.
I think you touched on every point I was going to make. If we're talking about a bombshell move up, Keith, you only really do that for a quarterback. And thank God the Broncos don't have to this time around. And I'm with Chad. If it's a couple picks away and Genty ends up falling, then yeah, I'd move up and kick a later pick, a second, third, whatever. But I'm not mortgaging the future for anyone in this draft class. Now, the caveat being, in the second round, maybe if they want Travion Henderson still on the board, if they go elsewhere in the first, then I'd move up in the second from 51 to whatever, because that's a player that personally I really covet, but it's a lot more palatable when it's day 2 and not day 1.
Mark Williams checking in on Facebook saying, good evening, Broncos bros. What do you guys think about Oregon tight end Terrence Ferguson? Like him a lot. I could see him landing in Denver very easily. I mean, I don't know how much you want to make this the Denver Ducks or whatever, but because you've already got Bo Nix, Troy Franklin, Alex Forsyth, possibly rumors tying the Broncos to Bo's brother Tez Johnson in this draft, and then of course Ferguson and that running back James. Anyway, there's multiple options for even more Ducks to find their way to Denver in this draft, but I really like Ferguson. Especially he still needs enough time to ripen on the vine a little bit to where it would be fortuitous for him to land in a situation where there was a more proven move tight end in front of him that he could learn from and like contribute on certain packages, be on the field, do some stuff, but not be relied on out of the gate, Zach, to be the guy. but I like Terrence Ferguson a lot. And also for the Broncos, it's especially, encouraging and a plus that he has experience playing with Bo Nix for 2 years.
I like him a lot too, and I would like him if he played for any school not named Oregon. He's so athletic, he does so much with the ball in his hands, and just imagining the packages with Evan Ingram and Ferguson both on the field together, it's mighty enticing. So yeah, in the later rounds or after the first round or so, that's when you start thinking if you don't take a tight end on day one.
Richie Rich just made me giggle. Look at his last comment, 656. Shiloh, joining late. Thank you for the super, brother. Joining late, I want to say we will win this draft. Yeah, amen, brother. You got to will it into existence, and the universe will bend into place. So yes, brother, we're right there with you. Jerry on Facebook, do you expect another free agent signing? If so, who? Receiver, running back, other? I'd like to snag Dobbins and go into the draft with everyone thinking we have it all covered. And that's the other component that we haven't really touched on, Zach, at the different points in tonight's show where we've been advocating for a Dobbins, etc. is, hey, how many times have we tipped our cap to the Broncos for solving so many needs in free agency already to free them up to be more disciplined in a BPA approach in this draft? That's really the last pressing, obvious thing. You signed a punter. I mean, not that we're really worried about the Broncos, drafting a punter early or anything, or drafting one, period. But the last thing is really, I've ever since Sean Payton said what he said, and in pre-Super Bowl at the Kay Adams show or whatever about receivers, combined with what we saw from that young group really coming to its own down the stretch, I don't think it's a need. It's a minor need. It's not a 4-alarm need like it was being presented early in the offseason, or at least, Zach, this time last year, right? Because you had guys genuinely emerge last year as contributors like Devon Vele, like Marvin Mims, and even Troy Franklin late. But running back still bothers me because it's a bona fide hole. Like, there is nobody. If you had to go play football right now, you're going to rely on Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime. Hey, good luck with that. If you're trying to improve and take leaps forward over what you did in year one with Bo Nix, you got to add to that. I mean, you had one of the best run blocking offensive lines in the NFL, but you are middling to bottom third rushing offense, Zach, because you didn't have the ball carrying talent. So you got to get one, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But what's your answer for Jerry?
Yeah, the last thing I saw from Kliss, and I hate to keep citing him, but I do respect his work, and it does hold weight in Broncos country. He said the signings are not over yet. He said a veteran 2.5 receiver, so like in between a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 3. Running back he mentioned, and also depth up front on both the O-line and the D-line. So I think there'll be a few more minor moves between now and day one of the draft.
Yeah, let's get those. Let's get the likes bumped up, you guys. Come on now on YouTube. What are we at? We got over 100 people in the room. Hit that like button. Help us out. It's a small thing you can do to help us out in a big bad way. Appreciate those of you who have taken the time to do that. Nice organic, a feather in our cap, so to speak. Okay, the Ronk. Hey, listen, bro. Much love and respect. Thank you for being here every single night. We got a few messages for you. Don't leave quite yet because we're going to come back to the chat before we do. And then we're going to dip here shortly. So here's your official 2-minute warning.
Fantastic episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans. That's right, just like you.
Okay, I'm going to grab 1 or 2 questions/comments from Instagram. This is a question, Zach, from Rodney Garcia, who says, who do you think will open the season against? Philly, What do you think? Do you have any predictions, Zach?
I need to see the schedule in front of me. That's a good shout. Thursday night at Philly to open the NFL calendar. I'm not a big fan of the Thursday night primetime games, but that would be exciting for sure.
Let me see another comment or question. Also, Rodney bringing up when you're talking about the receiver depth chart, A.T. Perry, can't forget about him as well. I mean, I kind of forget about him. No offense, Rodney. Like he's the last dude off the bus, generally speaking, for a reason. Not to say that he can become something, but I think, let's see. Yeah, I hope we lead the sacks. Broncos did. Hope we lead the league in sacks again. Yeah. I think we got the main questions. Can't wait to see Greenlaw. Watching his highlights on YouTube. He's a hard hitter. Yeah, he's legit, dude. He's bona fide. So thanks for being there. Appreciate you guys. And yeah, Poo2G. We definitely need a running back. Amen to that, brother. The Broncos are fixing to solve that in the draft. Jimmy on Facebook. Thank you for being with us. Says, I agree with Ralph. We got to draft Jihad Campbell. You can plug him all over. He's good on the edge, and he's explosive through the middle. And he fills Singleton's role. He's younger, faster, and more explosive. Yeah, edge converted to inside linebacker guy is Jihad Campbell. So he does have, kind of like a Drew Sanders, brings you a little bit of edge production as an inside guy. But I think more of a proven football IQ, so to speak. I think Eric wrote about that today too, than say a Drew Sanders at the position at inside linebacker. You got to know a lot if you're going to play inside linebacker. Your football IQ's got to be up there. I like him, Zach. I just don't know if it would be the best use of resources in the first round. But if the Broncos decide to make him the first inside linebacker drafted in the first round since DJ Williams, I'm not going to cry about it. He's a great player.
Yeah, I mean, here's the glass half full answer. At 20, even if everything goes wrong offensively, they can still lean on one of their defensive picks in that spot, a defensive lineman like Walter Nolan or Harmon, or inside linebacker like Jihad Campbell, just someone, a blue chipper to help make the Broncos a better football team. So if you look at it through that prism, Chad, they really can't lose on day one.
Let's grab this from Richie. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure we're truly in a BPA approach. We have quite a few of our current inside defensive line guys on expiring contracts as of next year. So, in my opinion, we want to nab another defensive line contributor. Oh yeah, it's when you're making these draft picks. Thank you, Richie. You got to worry about the short term. You're looking at short term need and like preemptive needs, right? So, as of right now, defensive line is not a bleeding weakness because you brought back DJ, John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen, and Malcolm Roach are all under contract this year. But those last three guys I just mentioned, to a man, they're free agents this time next year unless you extend them. So you got to expect, Zach, that D-line is very much on the table in round one, especially after the Broncos did what they did in free agency. It's very much on the table. I think it just depends on who's there. And by the way, Richie's advocating for Kenneth Grant, which would be an excellent pick.
Yeah, I keep kind of trying to hint at that defensive line is on the board in round one at 20 overall. And I say that often, if only just to remind myself, because I've been so focused on an offensive player. But it's a good point. They need, at least, if not starters, they need reliable backups. And it's one move that I could be critical of, or lack of, Chad. I would have liked to see the Broncos pick up another veteran defensive lineman other than DJ Jones this offseason.
Yeah. To echo the Rock here, welcome to the Facebook Stars Club, Jimmy Thielen. Thanks. Appreciate you, buddy. But guys, a mile high salute to the great super chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on tonight, like Casey Nickel, Tom Lockhuff, Eric Flynn, The Ronk, Cottonmouth 78, Ralph Brace-Girdle, Taylor Christensen, George Fox, David Youngkin. Keep a stiff upper lip, brother. Phil McLaughlin. Let's see. Shiloh. Much love and respect. And even though I already mentioned him, we'll keep it up here. The Ronk. Great show tonight. Thank you, guys. Fun conversation. We're getting out of here at about 3/4 of an hour into the show. So that's pretty good, considering, Zach, there was no real news today. But we will be back, of course, Thursday night. We'll see what happens between now and then, but can't wait for that. Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great week. Have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you Thursday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.